Quoll Writer is an open source free writing software, and if you're interested in getting it, you can find it on this website, which is basically dedicated to it. The website looks a bit shady, to be honest. It is marked as not secure in my browser, and it also looks a bit like a spam website would look, but this is the legit website. I also downloaded the software from here. I didn't have any problems with it, no virus detection or anything like that. It just looks a bit shady. So as you can see, the software is available for Windows, Mac or Linux, and basically what you do is you download here, and then you have the usual software to install on your computer. Your computer might give you a message that you don't know where the software is from. I went with installing it and I didn't have any problems. Also, the installation process is fairly old school. You basically have to go through the menu, and then you also can decide to have a shortcut and stuff like that. So the usual installation process for software, fairly easy. Then when you open the software, you have this starting page where you can create your new project. So basically you go up here and then create a project as you usually would. It's possible to create a project that is encrypted with a password, but just be sure to remember the password because it cannot be restored. So you would lose everything if you lost your password. Up here in the software you get information that is useful that you might want to follow when you first use the software. And also here in the starting page, now that you have created your project, next time you will find it here as well. You can create several projects here in this software. And this is what it looks like when you're in the software as your starting page. So what I do in these reviews is that I always use the same input material for my current writing project as a way to set up the software so that it's comparable and so that you get an idea of what it would look like if you wanted to apply it yourself, so that you have a better idea of if this software is the right fit for your own project needs. So to get started, what I want to do is to implement my structure in the project, and that's what happens basically here in the chapter section, where you create your chapters, and then within the chapters you do the writing, and you can link scenes in it, but those are more like notes and not really subsections of the chapter. So that's why basically the only option that you have here is chapters. You can't create folders and then text documents within it. For this, what I have to do here is basically I have a overall structure for 8 points that are the hero's journey, and usually I would put them in folders, and then within each of those turning points I would have chapters. Now here, because I can't do that, basically what I would do is set up chapters and then try to mark the chapters in a way that makes it clear that there's one viewpoint character and then there's another. So you will have to find a way to work around that if that is an issue for you, the same way as it is for me. Another thing to mention here is that if you want to create a structure all at once, it's a bit of a laborious process, because as you can see here, if I add a new chapter, basically I have to name each of them. And if you want to add several ones all at once, it will take a moment. You have the option of moving the chapters around, but that option is really just in terms of their hierarchy. You can't create sub-chapters or stuff like that. So what I can do here is I can do exactly this. One way of distinguishing the chapters and the viewpoints would be by naming the chapters accordingly, so you could see it like this. You do have the option of importing text or documents into this software, so if you already have writing, you can do this by basically going here and then going with importing a file. So here it sorted it into a chapter 1, and basically what I would do is to mark it as such, and this way you have your import material. So like I mentioned, you do have the option of creating scenes, and you also can create events, and basically what they look like is, if we go into chapter 1, here you have the text that is basically the scene, right? And now if I want to pin down a index card where I have more details on scenes and stuff like that, what I can do is I pick where in the text I want to basically have that scene information, then go up here and create this scene. And as you can see here on the side, this is basically your outlining section. You can also choose if you want to add this text directly into the writing, or like me, if you just want to basically use it as a side note. So now here on the side, you basically have your information when doing the writing. And the same is true for creating events. So let's say that the exact exciting incident for my story would happen at this point in the text. So I mark it here, and then I can go and create a plot outline item, and this is my exciting. And then you can see you have here on the side the pin again of the event with the description of what exactly it is that you want to pin here. And in the same manner, you can also add a note to this outline. So basically here, when you go and create this note here, you can decide if this is just information or if this is a to-do. But this is basically your outline feature here on the side next to the text. It's a very minimalistic software when it comes to features, and especially the outlining and the plotting part. If you, like me, are heavy in plot lines and in sub-conflicts and stuff like that and would prefer more outlining tools, this software isn't the one for you. But if you like to have a side overview of just the information that you need for specific scenes, and especially if you like to work more chronologically, I think this software might be the right one for you. So then moving on to characters. So this software doesn't jump between different windows and tabs when it comes to the different functions. Everything happens basically on this starting page, and as you can see down here you have a folder for characters. So if you go up here and you create a new character item, here you have this basic feature of adding the name and adding the description. You can add more information, more specific information when you open it, but as you can see, there's no real information field or anything that would give you like this extra input for how to create your characters. This is really just meant as a note where you put in the information that you already have. So less a development tool and more a note tool. Now what I did here is for my protagonist, I'm putting in all the information in terms of character arc, limitations, motivations, goal, so the basics that I would need. And then as you can see here, now I have a character listed here. There's no distinction between protagonist or side characters or stuff like that. Again, if you wanted to, you could go by basically renaming this person in this manner, and then you would see it. It's a bit annoying when you have to put the functions in there, but again, it's minimalistic. So if you're really just looking for a tool where you can store information right next to your writing, this might suit you. As you can see here, you can also not really sort the characters other than by name. So if, for me, this is beneficial because Alex obviously is the protagonist, but if your protagonist ends up somewhere down on the list, you would probably have to work with numbers or with some sort of alphabet code so that you can find it easier. Also, for the characters, you can't add any imagery or any character art, so it's really just text description. Then the same is true for how the locations work. So basically here, once again, you have your description field and you can put in your settings. You also have a item section if you have special instruments or time travel devices, I don't know. If you have something that you want to put there, basically you have the option. And also if you go here, what you can see is that you can add a new type of asset. So let's call it. And what you can also see is you have here the research items section. So this is exactly what it sounds like. If we open the fields here, you have also a section for having your links and stuff like that. But basically, let's say search. So this gives you the basic overview of your assets, so your characters, your locations, items and stuff. And this is basically what the software can do for you when it comes to the development tools. Now, before we go to the writing, let's move on to layout and design and how customizable it is and how much you can alter this surface to your own likings. So up here you have the option of having day and night mode. So this is what it looks like in the day mode. Actually, I really prefer usually dark mode. I like the gray because it's easier on the eyes, but I do like the white look of it. It does have a bit of a sort of Wikipedia kind of look to it, and if you really like that feel to it when it comes to your story Bibles and stuff, especially because it's so text-based. This might really suit you. So in that sense, I do like the design in the light mode, and probably during the day I would switch to light mode. Further customization happens up here in options, and here under how things look and sound like, you do have the option of changing the interface. So for example, if you prefer it on the other side, this might be an option for you. I think I actually like this one better. Then how big and small should the text be? Let's try that. You do have to be a bit careful when you adapt these settings, because there's a lot of option and it's not necessarily optimized for use in all of those modes. So for example, what I did here when it comes to how big should the text be, for a test I went with the full size, and then I couldn't see the entire screen anymore and couldn't easily put it back to a smaller font size. So be somewhat careful when adapting these settings to see how much of a change happens, just so that you don't end up like me, stuck for like 10 minutes before you can alter the software enough to basically get back to where you were. Then the other thing that I want to adapt here is how the text looks. As you can see, I copy pasted in my text and it basically doesn't do any spacing up here. So maybe I want to alter this. When you go to the text properties, so this is fine. I'd like it a bit smaller. Probably I would do it more like this, and here too. You will have to find your own preferences, what you prefer. I usually prefer more of a Word kind of view where the page isn't that broad. So this is somewhat not optimal for me, having to set it up and stuff like that. I will have to experiment more in what I want it to look like in here. But you do have at least the option to make the text look exactly like you want it to. And this might be something that you prefer because other softwares not necessarily allow that much room for your own customization. Also, usually when I do the writing, I prefer to have like either completely black or completely white pages. So here the thing is that obviously it basically just adapts the writing page and not the overall look. So clashes a bit with the gray, might look nicer in the light mode actually, but you do have some customization option here as well. So as you can see, there are colors that you can change the fonts, the sizes and stuff. For this view, you don't have any options for adding images or stuff like that. It's really just text. But when we go to the distraction-free writing mode, so opening up here, you can see there is room for customization here. So changing the background image to one of these, or you can also go and add your own one. And here you also have the option of editing what the rest of this looks like, and on the side you have your outline overview. So this is probably the most comprehensive distraction-free mode that I've seen so far, where you have your tools on the side still, even though you are in distraction-free mode. I think I like it like that, but if you are looking for complete distraction-free, you would have to see if you can blend them out. So this might not be optimal for you. Something that I find really annoying with this software and confusing is that the tab menu keeps blending out and showing up and not really being there. So I haven't really figured out yet why sometimes it just disappears and what I'm supposed to do to get it back. So as you can see here, I should have like my tab menu where I can choose the chapter that I want to work on, and right now it's not showing. So this has happened several times now, and basically what am I supposed to do now? So here the tab menu now in the full screen mode is visible again. So let's go back out of the full screen mode. And here we are, and then you would have your writing again, right? So again, something that just keeps happening, and I haven't figured out yet what exactly triggers it. But when your tab menu is showing, what you would have up here is the information section. Here you can add a description to the chapter. So if you have something similar to what I have with my plot beats. So basically I have an overview of what exactly happens in each chapter. And this is something that you could add here. So these are plot beats moments where basically I summarized what exactly happens in the chapter, and then for writing the chapter I would break it down into scenes. So this could be done here, and then you can also set a goal. So the goal seems to be fairly loose. Let's try this. It's just a text that tells you what your goal was, but it doesn't seem to be linked to any tracking up here. Here for the plan, it would be chapter 1 equals, let's say, 1000 words. And then you could basically use this in whatever sense you would want to have your goals and your plan for how to work, right? So this is basically your organizing task management system in this software, where you can set your own preferred goals and stuff. To get back to the chapter view, you have to close this window, and then here in the achievement section you have the tracking tool, where basically you have the overview of how much you have already done. But this is basically where you can set your goals. I struggle a bit with completely understanding how the goal setting functions, because I set these 1000 words per chapter, and when I go back to this overview, you can see that basically for the first chapter it still tells me I only did 2%, even though I should be almost there with the amount of words I already have in there. So this is something that it isn't that intuitive. You will have to figure out how exactly you want to set it up, and then also how you want to use it. When it comes to the editing, what you have here is you can turn on and off spell checking, and also here you can set tags if you're looking for something specific. But basically, other than that, there aren't really any editing tools that aren't the notes that you already had, like in the outlining section. So you could utilize the notes from the outlining section basically as your editing notes. So for example, if you wanted to use the category of information for your story notes and the category of to-dos for your editing notes, you could utilize it in that way. So moving on to a feature that I forgot to list in the overview section was the idea board. The reason why is because it's nested in here on the side and not with the other tools here in the starting page. So the idea board is its own separate tab, and basically what you can do here is you can pin down ideas according to categories. So let's say we have this, and then basically what I did here is I had like this brainstorming where I asked the question and had a lot of options which I would want to keep here. And as you can see, basically you have your idea stored. You can also rate the idea if you are looking to basically store all your ideas there and then pick the best one. That's an option. And you can also categorize it according to what kind of idea it is. So this is more of a pin board where you store snippets of ideas that you haven't put into notes or into text yet. And something special in this software that you won't find in others is here this do a warm-up exercise, which is basically a prompt exercise within the software. Here you can either create a prompt from the software, or you can store your own prompt and then use this as a sort of getting started with your writing session, not really sure what you want to write today. You could use this as your input section. When it comes to saving and backups, so the software has an option of creating automatic backups if you turn it on, and then it will create automatic backups all 12 hours. And then when you're done with the writing, the export function here offers you the option to go to Word and to EPUB. And the Word is a really old version of Word, but it should function just as well as any newer one would. Here you get an overview of all the stuff that you want to export, where you can basically choose if you just want the writing or all your assets as well. For now, let's take all to see what it looks like. Have it as single file. No, I would like one file per chapter. Single file is fine, yes. Let's go. And this is what I got as an output, a single Word file for each of the categories that you chose. So each asset gets its own file. And let's have a look at what these look like. So the outlining is really messy. Here, this is basically my chapters overview and also the scenes and the description of the scenes. So This is not my preferred view. Let's go with the text. Here too you can see it's pretty messy in terms of what it outputs. The other softwares that I tried out would take the structure that you had and created the table content according to the headings automatically. This one doesn't do that. It really just gives you singular files and basically just puts the categorization, the text and all that stuff into the text itself rather than creating some sort of structure. So the output is suboptimal in my opinion. You would have to have it organized fairly well in the text form before you export it so that you don't have to do another rearranging in Word. Overall, I like the software for its minimalistic look and also because you can create this sort of wiki feel to it. So if you are more intimidated by softwares that have like a ton of features and a lot to put in and you really just want like an easy storing writing software, this one might be the one for you. It seems very reliable in terms of downloading was fairly easy and installing as well. So far I didn't have any problems with the software freezing or anything like that. Sometimes it takes a moment to load, but not that worse than other softwares, so in that sense it wasn't really a problem for me. But the thing that really stops me from using this software is that it doesn't have any real outlining tools, and also that the whole categorization, folders and stuff that you would have in other softwares, this whole organization aspect to it is missing here. It's not really a story construction tool as it is just a plain writing tool. So yeah, I can recommend the software if you are looking for something minimalistic and you don't need the features mentioned here. If you're not really looking for outlining and plotting that much, then this tool is very reliable and really a good feel to get started with. If you are looking for further reviews for different softwares that is free, you can go to my playlist here, which is all about reviewing free writing software according to the same form as I did here with the same criteria, so that you get a better idea of what the software can do and pick the one that is best for you.